this is the sort of slicing of the various stacks that go into the metaverse. So, and within each one of these, obviously, there's a lot of texture. But let's start with infrastructure. This is the core underpinning, the hardware, the metal that runs, and the compute power gets generated for every pixel and voxel that you see on screens or you will see in your smart glasses. Innovators in this category tend to be the picks and shovels of large companies, which they have already built these picks and shovels of for the existing sort of, like Google Cloud, which uses a lot of the same underpinnings which are used right for media CDN. That YouTube is built on media CDN, but now it's offered to everybody. Similarly, what AWS does to what Amazon.com had built, in many ways, building the infrastructure out. But while the three main components of this are obviously network, storage, and compute. But beyond this, it also goes into telephony, and with the impending sort of 5G auctions that will tower hardware infrastructure. Also, you could think of that as being a part of it. And obviously, you can't ignore some of the elephants in the room, such as NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, and others. Human interface is the way that we all end up experiencing it, and the most popular example of this is both devices, but in this case, the mobile phone being the killer one, but Oculus with its recent sort of spurge in sales, but also what was hopefully going to be coming in the form of glasses from rumored companies like Apple. And many other cases of sort of these human interfaces also are broadly being looked at about various components, like what Alexa does with voice, as well as what Google does with Assistant. Right now, you're seeing them in sort of the physical world, but very soon you'll begin to see how they can interact with whether it's your avatar in a virtual world, or whether it is how it can kind of interact with these in sort of gamified environments. So individually, currently, these are devices that are standalone, but somehow they will all, the idea that with IoT and, they will all interact, but they'll interact in a 3D realm as opposed to sort of in the world we live in currently, it's a physical 3D realm. But when you end up interacting with it digitally, it's still in a 2D environment, and that maybe will change over a period of time. And lastly, it's decentralization before I hand it over to Arvind. And the idea of decentralization is, from computing at the edge, which is again something which you're going to be seeing more and more of in 5G, but also the decentralization of finance, decentralization and fractionalization of ownership. And this is where obviously Web3 and blockchain comes in. Typically, this whole idea of the metaverse tends to be combined at a couple of nefarious concepts, which are sometimes all boiled together. But really, there's two distinct streams that we look at it from. One is the world of crypto and the world of 3D. So today, a lot of the conversation, while you'll find for us, especially when it comes to case studies talking about both crypto and 3D mixing together in some form, really, between Arvind and me, we spend a lot more time looking at what makes great virtual experiences as opposed to, what's making the underpinning economy work very well, whether it's built on Polygon or Solana, etc. So that's where decentralization and newer technologies end up being bundled into a cocktail with a wider view of metaverse.